everyone, and welcome back to Engineering Quality, the podcast where we explore insights into testing and engineering. I'm Roya Lee.
Hi all, and I'm Veronica.
And I'm Ellie. So today we have not one, but two incredible guests whose work has shaped how we think about quality and leadership in software. We have Anne-Marie Charrett and Fiona Charles. Anne-Marie is a respected voice in quality engineering and the author of the newly released Quality Coach's Handbook. And her career journey spans roles as director of engineering, quality coach, consultant, and automation specialist. Anne-Marie is also an amazing mentor, and I personally credit much of my own career growth to her guidance. She is deeply committed to diversity in tech, inclusive leadership, and she's also a keynote speaker, sharing her expertise and visions with audiences worldwide. And also we have Fiona with us, who is the owner of Quality Intelligence, an independent consultancy where she helps organizations align their quality strategies with real-world business needs. I think for me, what truly sets Fiona apart is that she focuses on the human side of technology, teaching teams to go beyond process and develop practical skills that enhance collaboration, foster thoughtful quality leadership in testing and quality engineering as well. So I first met Fiona, I don't know if you remember Fiona, back in 2014 at the CAS conference in New York, where I attended your workshop, The Art and Science of Test Heuristics, and I became an instant fan. It was really brilliant. So both Anne-Marie and Fiona have been super influential voices in redefining what quality leadership looks like and moving it beyond processes and checklists into the realm of culture, collaboration, and systems thinking. So welcome, Anne-Marie and Fiona, to Quality Engineering. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. So, Anne-Marie, Fiona, it's so nice to have you on our podcast again. And so, to kick things off, we like to start with an icebreaker. So, the question that we have for both of you is, if you weren't in tech, what would you be doing right now?
I'll start. I'm doing it. I mean, I'm at this point in my life, semi-retired. I consider myself to be a recovering software quality consultant. So I'm doing it. I sing in two choirs. I garden. I swim most days. Walk my dog 6 to 10 kilometers a day.
That's
it.
amazing. Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah, this is really tough. I joke that many times I've thought about what else should I do except working in tech, and every time I say I just don't have the imagination to think of anything else. Like, I keep thinking, like, come on, Anne-Marie, there must be something else in the world you can do apart from being a software tester. And it's like, no, my brain can't come up with anything else, which is a little bit sad, I think.
It is.
And I think in the tough times, when things get really tough, I dream of actually stacking shelves in a supermarket, like something super, super simple that doesn't require any mental effort or work. It's just like, and, it doesn't require influencing anyone or doing anything, just like, and at the end of the day, I go home and my job is done. So, yeah, I don't have any dreams of saving the world or doing anything like that except stacking shelves in the supermarket.
It's very similar to what I want to do. Something very simple that doesn't require a lot of mental.
That's right.
Yes, that's awesome. And Anne-Marie, I think it's awesome that you don't really want to leave the field that you're at because it means that you found your calling.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other way of looking at it, right? It's sort of, I kind of like to say software testing chose me. And, I think nobody actually ever goes through university choosing to be a software tester, right? It's like, when I grow up, I want to be a software tester. But I think like when I started working I did engineering, when I started working in protocols, and I was actually testing compliance to protocols. So like you got mandatory fields, you got optional fields in these standards, and I was writing test automation scripts for that. And the weirdest thing is you'd have two devices that actually complied to the standard, but when you connected them to each other, they didn't work. And it was like, well, how can that be? And this was me kind of, 21-year-old kind of, how could that be? And then realized, well, actually, there's a difference between meeting requirements and fit for purpose. And I think like that sort of whole thing was like, how could that be? Why is that? What is going on here? And then that, I think my innate curiosity kicked in. And ever since then, it's just been the same question, just in different forms. Well, how could it be that teams all understand what testing is, but nobody's doing it? Like, what is going on? How can it be that we're spending all this effort in test automation and yet our quality is not very good? It's that constant kind of the black and white versus the reality, and I think, that just keeps me going. And then, of course, I think the software testing community, the quality community is amazing. And so I've built over time great connections with people and, people like Fiona, yourself, Ali, it's just, that also keeps you there, right? That sort of community of people. So here I am.
This is so true. This is so true. Thank you for sharing, Anne-Marie. All right. And today we will be talking about quality coaching concepts. But before we dive into this, let's start with both of you ladies. Could you share a little bit about how you got started in testing and what was really sparkled your passion for quality? Anne-Marie, you kind of started us
I kind of already addressed
already.
that, so maybe over to Fiona.
Yeah, exactly.
I started as a technical writer. I had quit university, taken a few years off, gone back, and I was a starving student. And I got a summer job in a company. Well, it was actually my university's library automation department. And I went in, I thought I was interviewing for a gopher job. And this man started talking all kinds of incomprehensible things. And he said, so Jeff tells me you can write. Jeff was the guy who had referred me for the job. And I said, yes. And he said, well, I need a technical writer. I need somebody who can write and who doesn't know anything about computers. I said, that's me. So I smiled and nodded and said I could do whatever. And I got the job. And I fell in love with software in that job and with software people. But also I got to exercise the software from all directions, trying to understand it so that I could explain it to other people. And that became a real passion, learning very early that if it wasn't clear to one person, then I hadn't done it well. It wasn't clear. And that really gave me a passion for users and how they used the software. And of course, then I started finding problems as well. And that, as you know, is even more fun.
Yes.
So that was kind of it. After that job, I had another brief stint as a tech writer in a job I was totally bored with because I didn't get to invent that job. And I got hired as the sole tester for a product company for a system that we were selling to semiconductor manufacturers. This little Canadian company selling to great big manufacturers. And one of the things I got to do was to organize everybody else to test for every release. It was always about everybody being involved in the testing, about everybody caring about quality. And it was kind of a shame when some of that went away. And now we've come back to that, and that's great.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. I really love hearing the origin stories of people in software testing, because there is no two stories that are even remotely similar. Like, everyone has such a different path to get into testing. Like you said, Anne-Marie, like, no one grows up or goes to university thinking I'm going to be a tester when I grow up. So it's really interesting how our paths are so different. And I think that's one of the things that makes niche here in the engineering field, that it makes it so interesting, because it is so diverse in the sense that most people's backgrounds are very different when they get here. So I love that part of what we do. So thank you so much for sharing that. Really exciting stories. And Marie, I have a question for you. So you've literally written the book on quality coaching. And I wanted you to share with our listeners a little bit, what is it like to be a quality coach, and how does that differ from being a tester in a team, for example?
Yeah, so I mean, a quality coach is someone who really, the official definition, which I get to create, is that a quality coach supports and rallies a team to collectively own quality through facilitation, education, experimentation, and visualization. Now, that's a lot of words, right? but effectively what they're doing is, if you can think of teams that don't necessarily have a software tester in the team, it's like you're providing your expertise to help that team think about quality, to own the quality, and to do the activities related to quality. And some of those are testing activities, but some of them are also monitoring and alerting and talking to the team about how to actually think about monitoring and alerting along with, building the product, right? Rather than sticking monitoring, alerting in at the end. I think there's a lot of different dimensions to the quality coach. It's a really, really interesting role. You can have technical coach who basically looks at the tooling aspects and the frameworks and helping keep those up to date. And also a bit of coaching on sort of helping software engineers become better at test automation. But there's also the product quality coach, which is really focused on that sort of, how do we know, providing that value to the team about, understanding the product, because so often, teams are really, really focused on, especially if they're working in an agile world, they're focused on small stories, and they need someone to come in and collectively think about the whole and think about the poor user, right? So that is sort of a real value add from teams, I think, as well, is to sort of have that product perspective. And so really the difference is, if you think about a tester in a team, they might be doing testing as an activity in their role, but the quality coach isn't necessarily doing testing. They may occasionally do testing because, the team is, that's a need and that's a value add, but the majority of time they're not actually doing testing within a team, but they might do it across 3 or 4 teams and something like that. And so because of that, the organizational structure is very, very different as well. So I was watching Gordon Ramsay the other day. Have you seen that? When he comes in, Gordon Ramsay, when he comes into these restaurants and he kind of starts going and, these restaurants are in a dire situation. I don't know if you've seen him. And he comes in and he kind of picks out all the different things and then he helps the restaurant become better. Now, I'm not suggesting that a quality coach should be like Gordon Ramsay. I don't think anybody wants to be like that. But that concept of raising the bar, going in and raising the bar, and I think that's sort of something definitely a quality coach can help do and help the team get to that, raising the bar. But it's a whole organization. People say quality is a team responsibility. I actually say quality is a leadership responsibility. And you need to have those conversations with leadership to help enable that space to happen for those teams to do quality activities. And if your engineering leadership doesn't understand that you've got to have conversations about quality and then enable quality, how are the teams supposed to be doing that too? So quality coaching is actually looking at very much holistically sort of engineering managers and organizational structures to help improve quality as well.
That's excellent. Like, I think it's such a needed role in most of the organizations, at least that I've worked with. In your book, you talk about levels of influence as well. And the tester sometimes doesn't have all the influence that a quality coach might have that's outside of their influence as well. So for someone that might be thinking like, there is no quality coach in my organization, but I would love to become one. What tips would you give them for that?
Well, you could go and buy my book. I mean, that would be tip number 1, right? All the information's in there. No, seriously, I think like you can do quality coaching, right? Quality coaching is the activity of coaching people within your team. And that will give you a flavor of whether you like that type of role or not, right? It'll give you a little bit of experience in sort of helping work with other people to help them do better quality. And the way we work in organizations today, everybody really needs to do a bit of testing. And so you only get a better team if everybody chips into testing when it's needed. You might be the key tester on the team that does most of the testing, but there's going to be a situation where a bottleneck comes on and everybody jumps in and tests, right? To help clear that bottleneck. So coaching and helping teams to feel comfortable and confident about going in and doing bug bashes or doing exploratory testing or doing a bit of test automation is only a benefit to the whole team. So I think if you can start having those sorts of conversations with your team and asking your team what they think, I think this is really, really important, is when you're moving to quality coaching, it's very much about the team owning the conversation around quality. And that involves a little bit of shift in your thinking. You need to let go a little bit about the strategy and stuff like that. You need to let people into that conversation and then let them learn and grow and maybe make a couple of mistakes. They might go, oh, we're going to automate all the things. And it's like, okay, well, let's see how that goes. So I think there's a little bit of a sort of, you can start doing that. You don't have to be a quality coach to do that, right? At all.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, Anne-Marie. It's a great explanation on like what is the difference between tester and quality coach. I want to just quickly do one follow-up. So do you see a quality coach as like a temporary position in the organization or permanent?
So that's a great question. And I think it's a it depends question. I don't think every organization should be doing quality coaching, right? I don't advocate for that. I think every organization can do quality coaching. If you have a lot of complexity in your organization and having an actual testing team might be an actual really valuable thing. So I think when you're looking at organizations, you got to ask yourself what's best for our context. And sometimes it's a quality coach, sometimes it's a tester. So is it permanent? Like I've been in organizations where I've had a quality coach team and we've actually worked like an enabling team. If you're familiar with team topology structure, it's an enabling team. And we actually created career paths. We had different levels of quality coaches. So we had senior quality coaches. We didn't have a VP of quality coaching. We didn't think that there was a need for that, but certainly we had principals. And so, but we didn't have junior quality coaches because one of the things that quality coaching is more of a leadership thing. I think it's really hard for someone to jump in and be a quality coach on day one. I think that's unfair on everyone. I think you have to have some background in working in software testing to some degree, really helps. So it is a more of a senior role, but definitely you can do it as permanent, but you might choose not to. You might choose to sort of, we have a need for quality coaching at this point in time, but now our organization has changed and maybe we need a different type of role. I think you got to really look at your organization and where it is in its own life cycle. Are you a scale up? Are you a startup? Are you enterprise? All these will have different needs. So
yeah, thank you for expanding on this. That was very valuable. Thank you very much. All right, let's switch gears a little bit. Fiona, now you're on the spotlight. We know that you and Anne-Marie are running a workshop at Agile Testing Days, which is called Expected to Lead Quality. Can you share what are some common challenges people face when they're expected to lead quality without formal authority?
I think that whether or not they have formal authority, they're going to encounter resistance because it's change. When you're trying to improve quality, you're trying to introduce a level of change, and people resist. They're emotionally attached to what they do, or they're too busy, or whatever. But there are all sorts of reasons, and you can sometimes make use of that resistance to help. But in reality, yeah, resistance is one of the things you're going to encounter. If you don't have authority, I think it's much harder because you're trying to take time from people who work for somebody else who is giving them assignments, and you don't have the right to prioritize their work. And if you're trying to improve the quality there, then you need them to be able to give some priority to improvement activities. And I'm talking about things like workshops, for example. I mean, when I was in a position where I was expected to make quality improvements, as Anne-Marie said earlier, it's their work, not yours. I don't own anybody else's processes, right? They own their own processes. But process improvement is typically what we are looking for. And people who are doing the work know best what needs to improve, what they would like to improve. So really, one of the best ways, and I know Anne-Marie deals with this in her book, one of the very best ways to get started in activities that for improving quality is to do workshops with people, to focus on, to get their ideas out and to get them to tell you what it is that they want to do and to help them achieve a consensus. So really, you're always in a facilitating role. You're always in an influencing role. You're never, even if you have the authority, frankly, telling people, go thou and improve your quality. And here's the metric, come back when you achieve it. And we'd like that in a week, please. Is never, ever going to work. You really only get somewhere by influencing people. And that is a huge challenge in itself. It's a challenge for you. I know when I had a team of, and in those days, we called it quality assurance rather than quality coaching. And that term has morphed into having a very different meaning. But when I had analysts on my team whose job was to go and work with people and to do workshops with them, I had to do a certain amount of work with them on their morale, because it was hard for them to feel they had achieved anything. They didn't have deliverables. And that is also a challenge, that particularly when times get tough, when people are scrambling to meet deadlines and so on, it's often the case that management will come back and say, well, what good are you? You don't have any deliverables. We're going to focus on the people who do. But that's also important for people who are doing the work to have that sense of that feeling of accomplishment as well. Anyway, those are some of the challenges.
Yeah. I can totally relate to some of that happening. But one thing that I've found is that in order to be able to really influence people, it's good to have, we've spoken about it a lot, but to have that network. So you start with one person who you can
Yes.
influence and have that one person help you influence another person. Maybe a manager can help you influence a whole team, because it's also challenging to get people to show up to workshops, right? They may say, well,
Yeah.
that's a good use of my time, or I don't think I want to use that tool, or I don't think I want to change this process. So it's good when you have other people on board to help you with influencing and helping to make the changes happen.
Well, I think it's really important, whatever role you're in, but particularly in different kinds of quality roles, figure out who your allies are
Yeah.
and to start working with those people and with their networks as well as
Yes.
building your own network within. Particularly, who are your allies in upper management, but also
Mhm.
in other
Important.
groups and so on, right? It really is all about the people.
Yeah, it really is. Thank you so much for sharing. So you've each worked with organizations at many stages of growth, right? So can you share a time when you had to lead a quality transformation without a clear roadmap?
What is a clear
Uh,
roadmap? Sorry, Anne-Marie, you go ahead.
no, it's fine. I'm enjoying this. Go knock yourself out.
Real tester starts to ask questions first before answering.
I can't imagine a clear roadmap for quality improvement. I think it's something that evolves. I also think that change happens one person at a time, and that's a cliche, but I think it's true. But I also think it happens in small steps.
Yeah.
So having roadmaps tend to be big picture, and you really need to think about the small steps.
I'm working in a large enterprise at the moment where we've got 500 teams we're working with to drive change, right? And so at some level, there needs some form of formal structure in order to be able to drive. But I think that too quickly people jump into the roadmap and they eliminate what Fiona's talking about. They don't think about sort of the behavioral aspect. So when you're talking about real change, you're talking about changing how people think and behave about creating software. And that is not an easy thing to do. And it requires a lot of, as Fiona said, talking to people, thinking about who your allies are, and really talking about trying to identify moments of opportunity, I call. It's like where you want to start building those allies, getting your ideas out in front of the right people, and then gradually winning their trust and ability. And you need to be explain what you do and why it's important to them. And you're going to have different levels of conversation with different people. So when you talk to senior leadership, you're going to talk in one way about quality and the why. But when you talk to a team, you're going to talk to their needs. And then when you talk to actual other test engineers, you're going to talk in a different way as well to their needs. So you need to be able to shape and frame your conversation based on who you're talking to. And you need to find these opportunistic moments where you just grab it and you just back yourself and just go, right? And when you're in work dealing with large change in large organizations, there's this, I call it passive resistance. And it's really just, there's a lot of human glue in large enterprise organizations, and human glue is people, and people will not necessarily immediately offer trust to you and just go to what you say. They need convincing. So I think, you do need a roadmap once all that has been achieved. If you're talking about, change in large organizations, you definitely kind of need, because some people think in that way. And some people depend on roadmaps because they shouldn't have to think about all the detail. That to them is the change, which is fine. It's different, but they need that. So don't make it hard for them by not giving them a roadmap. So I'm a big believer of people have different ways of working. They have different ways of thinking what is good. And some of them include having a roadmap. Give them a roadmap. So, yeah.
A lot of times, as you said, there are people who, in many companies, our role would fall under product, right? And product is big on roadmaps. Executives are big on roadmaps. They want to see the roadmap. They want to see the transformation based on the deliverables that you're meeting on these roadmaps, right? So how do you handle the pushback if, let's say, it's an evolving roadmap, right? It's not start to end on a specific project, because how do you show that transformation and meet those deliverables per se with that pushback when it's an evolving thing?
You need to have goals that people can buy into. I mean, I was joking about metrics, but in fact, you do need to have some metrics that you can then show improvement against to develop a baseline of where you are, and then what are the goals. Also, to go back to what we were saying about people need to believe it's their idea. and, and, and I don't mean that in a manipulative sense, but you don't get buy-in until it's their idea.
It's true. So
It'd be their idea too, but it does need to be their idea.
Yeah, the power of successful people management, right? Make people think that this is them who decided to do it this way. Exactly.
But I think that comes with its own challenges, right? And I 100% agree with you, Fiona. And it used to really upset me. It's like, they're stealing my ideas, until my boss was like, Anne-Marie, that's a good thing, right? The more they think it's their idea, the better. And I sort of calmed down. I was only like, gradually realized, she's totally right. Like, she absolutely was spot on. But I think there's also, you've got to balance that with being able to demonstrate, like, where's if it's everyone else's idea, what are you doing, right? And there's a need to be smart about your personal, how you actually portray success as well in a larger organization. If everyone's doing this, where are you in this, right? And I think you need to be just smart about how you are framing what you do and how you're positioning, your success as well. I think, large organizations, there's lots of things at play. So that's something to be mindful of as well.
Well, that's very difficult. And it may be that is the thing that most of us exit on, that you reach a point where you can't be effective anymore because it's their idea and you're not seen to be leading it, even though you actually are. And then you move on because you can do that somewhere else. I mean, I've seen enough people that has happened to, and I've been in that position myself. That okay, you've achieved as much as you can in one particular organization. Now, it could be within one organization in a large enterprise too. Could be moving across, but there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was. I'm pretty sure it was Jerry Weinberg that said in The Secrets of Consulting that if you want to take credit for anything, that you shouldn't be in consulting. And I think there is so many correlations between being a consultant and being a tester in a team. Like we're almost consulting within the team. So he gives some tricks on how to get around that. But it's like you have to forget about taking credit for anything, because if the person doesn't think it's their idea, they're never going to get it done. So.
But as Anne-Marie said, then how do you get credit for your work?
It's a double-edged sword, right?
Because really, how does senior management know that you're doing a valuable job?
Yeah.
And that is very much a balancing act.
Yeah. And I think when you are an employee of an organization that has goals setting and all of that, I think one good thing that you can do is set those goals ahead of time before you start the transformation process and say, yes, even though it got achieved and a lot of people had this idea, the seed came from here. That's one thing you can do, but it's really difficult to claim ownership of those big transformation projects. That's for sure.
I don't think this is necessarily just unique to testing as well. Like, there's many other roles, principal engineers, for example, who often go in and sort of advise and support software engineers and stuff, but don't necessarily, sit and write code. I think it is actually across other roles. I think also that as to what Fiona says, it is hard to do, but I think also there's this kind of try and find some things that are tangible. You can put a JIRA ticket to, if you so whether it's dating documentation or something kind of a thing, so that it looks like, okay, Anne-Marie's doing that, she's doing something. So we're just going to leave her. She's obviously like, there's her output sort of thing. But all the while, what you're really doing is you're furiously paddling underneath, driving behavioral change, right? Talking to the right people, having those conversations at the right point in time, doing what you need to do in order to drive the change and help people move a little bit forward. That's your real work. But up there, you've got these kind of like, I almost call it, it's not fake work because it's valuable work, but it's work that people can see and they're like, okay, she's fine. She's doing that. And, just chuck the word AI in and you'll be fine, Oh, I'm working on AI stuff. Yeah. Okay.
I did want to ask one question. I know that both of you have done a lot of work together, but can you share a little bit about how both of you started working together?
It's a long time ago.
We
met at CAF.
2010 or 11 or something.
Oh, God. Decades ago. Yeah. I think we did Speakeasy. But before that, we did a conference tutorial maybe, or did we do a leadership tutorial together?
We did one. Yeah, that's right. Was that the New Orleans one? We did a workshop on building your career and so we met at CAST, and Fiona I had very, very little experience in tutorial doing workshops, and then Fiona took pity on me, I think. And she's got so much experience in workshops. She sort of said, well, why don't we do one together? And I was like, oh, that'd be amazing. And we did this workshop on building, how do you know where your career path is and what is your career path? And that was the first sort of opportunity for me to see Fiona do her magic. And we had people almost at tears in that workshop when they sort of realized where they needed to go, where they wanted to go really compared to what they feel they should go. And that was really kind of a light bulb moment for me. Wow, Fiona's just really, really good at this. And then just observing her doing her heuristic workshops and how she's brought people together. Like for me, and Speakeasy, which was sort of mentoring new faces coming into the conference network, because we observed there was such small diversity in conference speaking. It was like 4% in some conferences that had diversity, and we need to do something about this. And Fiona said, we can't just whinge about it. We actually need to do something. So that's how Speakeasy came about.
You did so much work for that, all of the organization and setting it up and getting the mentors, and wow.
Yeah. It was good.
It was
good.
fun.
And then she was obviously a natural person to be the editor of the Quality Coaches Handbook. So Fiona painfully went through all my awful spelling and grammar and challenged some ideas on some of what I'd written, which was really, really good, pointed out some gaps and helped me kind of really shape the book into something that's not just a series of blog posts, but something that's kind of coherent and makes sense.
It was
Fiona
mostly there. It was mostly there. I mean,
you're being kind.
It's a great book.
Anyway, so yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing, ladies. That's amazing. Like this is insights that you never hear about anywhere. So-
Remember, we did a keynote together once too, and it was quite bad, I think, because A, we kind of fudged it up the day before, but that was in Copenhagen, wasn't it?
That's right.
But B, we should have been disagreeing, and the way we had set it up, there was structural disagreement built in, and it turned out we agreed with each other. So I think it was quite boring.
Yeah, that was the keynote with 2 slides.
Yes, and Rob Samaran beat us by having 1 slide.
That's right.
So funny. All right, ladies, thank you very much for sharing your stories and insights with us today. We have learned a lot, and I'm sure our listeners did too. But before we wrap up, let's do a fun little activity. We are going to do a quick 5-question rapid fire round. I'll ask you a question, and you can both answer on the spot without overthinking it. Are you ready?
Fiona
let's
goes
go.
first.
Okay. First question. Morning person or night owl?
Morning.
I'm changing with age. I was always a night owl. I wrote all of my essays starting at midnight in university. We used to eat our dinner at the time other people were going to bed, and my father said we kept Spanish hours. And with COVID, my partner and I started going to bed early and getting up early. And now, we're up at 6. And at 9 o'clock, I'm falling asleep in front of the television. So I guess you would say morning person.
So changed over time. Good. A book or a movie?
I'd say movie at the moment.
Movie.
Okay. Pizza or tacos?
Oh, pizza.
Tacos, just to be different.
You're so contrary.
I was going to say, here you go, agreeing on everything again.
All right, 2 more. Netflix binge or YouTube rabbit hole?
It has to be Netflix.
I don't have Netflix. Only stream really cheap things or free. But I do have YouTube Premium, but only so I can listen to the music that I'm practicing for my choir without stupid ads.
Okay. And the last one, superpower. Fly or invisibility?
Invisibility. Every time.
Well,
That'd be
all
so
women become invisible as they reach a certain age. I'm long past that age, so I guess I have to say invisibility.
I would hardly define you as invisible, Fiona, but anyway, that's
I agree. You're not invisible, Fiona.
Not at
Don't
all.
sell yourself short.
Oh, that was so fun. Thank you so much, Anne-Marie and Fiona, for joining us today and sharing your experiences. Before we sign off, where can our listeners follow your work and learn more from you?
mine's AnneMarieCharrett.com. You'll find all the links to the book. And I'm also writing as well there, so dig in.
Well, yeah, I won't point to my website because Anne-Marie told me 10 years ago it was appalling, and it is. And I haven't done anything about it. I'm so bored with it. So I'm on Blue Sky, And I do conferences from time to time.
Sounds great. So we'll link everything in the show notes. Your book, Anne-Marie, your website, and your Blue Sky, Fiona, so people can reach out to you. And thanks again for joining us. It was a real pleasure to have both of you here on Quality Engineering.
Thank you.
Likewise. Had a hoot.
It
Thanks.
really was. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
So that's a wrap for today's episode. I really enjoyed the conversation that we had with Anne-Marie and Fiona. And I really hope that it sparkled some ideas on everybody that's listening or watching us, and that you can bring back some of those ideas to your work. So thank you so much for listening. And we can't wait to share more with you next time.
Absolutely. I really enjoyed having them on as well. And if you liked what you heard, hit the subscribe button, leave us a review, and pass this episode, share it with a friend, right? Pass it on to someone else who's also passionate about quality.
And we have got even more inspiring guests and topics lined up for this season. So keep an eye out. You can follow the podcast wherever you get your shows. Find all the details in our website at www.engineeringqualitypodcast.com. Connect with us on LinkedIn at Engineering Quality Podcast. And now watch our conversations on YouTube at Engineering Quality. Until next time, bye for now.
Bye, everyone.